It's a Tuesday morning in September 1939. You're standing in a kitchen in Warsaw. The kettle's warm. The radio's playing something soft. You reach for a cup. Then the sound comes. Not thunder, not an engine. Something high and thin, falling from the sky. You look up. The ceiling doesn't matter anymore. The first bomb of the war just found your street. You didn't hear about it. You lived under it. And here's the thing nobody tells you. The bombs aren't what kill most people in this war. Not the planes, not the tanks, not the guns. Something quieter is coming for you. Something you'd walk right past today. You think you'd survive World War II. You're picturing a soldier, a rifle, a trench. But you're not a soldier in this story. You're a civilian, in a city, with a ration book. And most people who died in this war never fired a shot. They starved, they froze, they caught something. You have about 3 winters before this era decides if you live. Right now, today, you're fine. You're hungry? You open a door. There's food inside it, glowing. You're cold? You touch a wall. Heat comes out. You're sick? A pill fixes it in a day. You don't even think about these things. They're background noise, boring, invisible. Now delete all of it. In 1942, that fridge is empty, and it's staying empty. That heat in the wall, the coal's gone to the army. That pill, penicillin exists, barely, and it's not for you. The stuff you ignore today was the whole game back then. A single egg could be a luxury. A pair of good shoes could save your feet and your life. Salt, sugar, soap, rationed, hoarded, stolen. Today, you'd throw out food that would have kept a 1943 family alive for a week. That's the part that should scare you. It wasn't the drama that killed people. It was the ordinary things running out. The safety you don't notice is the only thing keeping you alive. Take it away, and you're not a hero. You're just cold and thin and counting days. So here's what this era actually does to you. World War II didn't kill most of its victims with weapons. It killed them with scarcity, disease, and the slow collapse of normal life. The front line was terrifying, but the deadliest place to stand was your own kitchen, empty and quiet. The first threat is starvation. Not dramatic, not fast, just relentless. By 1942, a German ration card for a normal consumer could drop toward 1,000 calories a day in the worst zones. Your body needs closer to 2,000 just to sit still. Do that math for 3 years. The Netherlands lived it in the winter of 1944. The Dutch called it the Hongerwinter, the hunger winter. Food supplies collapsed after a transport blockade. People ate tulip bulbs. They boiled sugar beets. Around 20,000 people died before spring came. You can picture it, a city of thin faces, waiting for a cart that isn't coming. But what about the thing you can't ration against? The second danger doesn't wait in a bread line. It travels in the crowd, disease. In shelters, camps, and cellars where bodies pack together. Typhus spread through lice in exactly these conditions. Warsaw's crowded districts saw it tear through the population in the early 1940s. You don't get sick from the enemy. You get sick from the person beside you. One louse, one bite, a fever that climbs and doesn't stop. And here's the one you never see coming. The one that doesn't need bombs or germs at all. It's the cold. A European winter with no coal, no glass in the windows, and no fat on your body. In the Siege of Leningrad, the winter of 1941 to 1942 hit temperatures near minus 30 Celsius. People burned furniture, then books, then floorboards. Over 1 million civilians died there before it ended, most from hunger and cold together. Cold doesn't roar. It just sits with you until one morning you don't wake up. So how do you actually survive 3 winters of this? Not with a weapon, not with a plan to fight. The thing that keeps you alive is boring, and it's this: information. Knowing where food is before everyone else knows. Knowing which shelter is safe, which street floods, Which official can be bribed? Survivors of these years say the same thing again and again. The people who made it were connected. They had a neighbor with a farm cousin. They had a source for black market bread. They knew the ration schedule better than the clerks did. In Leningrad, a road opened across a frozen lake in the winter of 1941. They called it the Road of Life. Trucks drove over the ice of Lake Ladoga, carrying flour in and starving people out. Knowing that road existed, and when a truck was coming, was the difference between living and not. Fail at this one thing, and no courage saves you. You can be brave and still starve in a locked apartment. Information was the food before the food. The people who survived weren't the strongest. They were the ones who knew things first. That's the whole secret. It's not glory. It's a whisper network. Now here's the part nobody talks about. This horror accidentally built the modern world you're sitting in. That penicillin you shrugged at earlier, the war is what forced it into mass production. In 1941, doctors could barely make enough to treat one patient. By 1944, before D-Day, factories were producing it in huge batches for wounded soldiers. The war turned a lab curiosity into a medicine that now saves millions. It didn't stop there. Radar, jet engines, the first programmable electronic computers, blood banks, and mass transfusion techniques were refined in these exact years. The pressure of survival squeezed out inventions that peacetime hadn't bothered to finish. There's a dark irony sitting in all of it. The same era that starved and froze people also built the tools that would later keep people alive. You're healthier today partly because of the worst years humans ever had. The scarcity forced the science. That's the strange, uncomfortable gift buried inside the wreckage. Let me show you how brutal the ordinary became. In the Dutch hunger winter of 1944, official rations in the West fell below 1,000 calories a day by winter's end. People ate flower bulbs to survive. A whole population thinned in months. In Leningrad, the siege lasted 872 days, from September 1941 to January 1944. The bread ration dropped to about 125 grams a day for many. That's a few slices and nothing else. In Warsaw, typhus surged through the overcrowded districts in 1941 and 1942. Lice carried it from body to body. A disease of crowding, not combat, became a mass killer. In Britain, rationing started in January 1940 and didn't fully end until 1954, 9 years after the war stopped. Bacon, butter, and sugar were limited first. Sweets were still rationed a decade later. In Bengal, a famine in 1943 killed an estimated 2 to 3 million people. Wartime supply collapse and policy failures cut off the rice. Most victims never saw a single soldier. In Germany itself, by 1945, the ration system was breaking down completely. Civilians in bombed cities scavenged rubble for anything edible. The machine that started the war couldn't feed its own people. Here's the part that outlived everyone who suffered it. The Dutch hunger winter became one of the most important studies in modern biology. Researchers tracked the babies who were in the womb during that starvation. Decades later, scientists at institutions, including Columbia University and Leiden, studied those same people as adults. What they found rewrote how we understand hunger. Those babies grew up with higher rates of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Starvation before birth had reprogrammed their bodies to hoard every calorie. This became foundational evidence for a field called epigenetics, the idea that your environment can switch genes on and off, and pass that setting to the next generation. A single terrible winter left a fingerprint on DNA that lasted a lifetime. The children of those children showed traces of it too. So the famine didn't end when the food came back. It kept killing, quietly, decades later, in the bodies of people who were never even hungry as adults. That's the reach of this era. It didn't just take the people who lived it. It reached forward and touched the ones not born yet. Now put yourself back in your own kitchen, today. Imagine the same collapse hit right now. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You'd be worse off than your great-grandparents were. They knew how to preserve food, bake bread, mend clothes, grow a potato. You know how to reorder something with your thumb. Modern cities hold about 3 days of food on their shelves. The whole system runs on trucks arriving on time every single day. Cut the power, cut the fuel, cut the deliveries. Those glowing fridges go dark in hours. Your card stops working, the apps stop working. And the skills that saved a 1943 family, the canning, the rationing, the whisper network, most of us don't have them. Your great-grandmother could stretch one chicken across a week. Could you? That's the gut punch. The war didn't kill people because they were weak. It killed them when the ordinary system stopped. And your ordinary system is far more fragile than theirs ever was. So let's go back to that Warsaw kitchen, the kettle, the soft radio, the cup in your hand. Now you know what's really coming. Not the bomb, the empty fridge after it, the lice in the crowded shelter, the winter with no coal, the 3 years of counting calories and hoping a truck crosses the ice. You survive this era by knowing things first, where the food is, which road opens, who to trust. Not with a rifle, not with courage, just with a whisper, past door to door. The soldiers got the statues, but the people who really survived World War II were the ones who never made the history books, the quiet ones, the thin ones, the ones who knew where the bread was. You wouldn't have died a hero. You'd have died waiting for a cart that never came, unless you were listening.